Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our June NCcareers webinar. My name is Anshul Gupta. I'm the NCcareers Content and Engagement Coordinator with the North Carolina Department of Commerce's Labor and Economic Analysis Division. I'm also joined by my colleague, Jamie Vaughn. He'll be helping us monitor the chat as well as the Q&A portion, and is also our resident data expert on all things NCcareers. So we also have our NCcareers intern with us today, Emma Evans. She's been helping us out so much already, and we're really happy to have her here with us this summer. So for today's session, we'll be talking more about the data on NCcareers. We get a lot of questions from folks about where is this data coming from? Do we have state level data, regional data, national data? And can I see what's happening within my area? So the goal for today is to really help give you a better understanding of what's happening behind the scenes on NCcareers. So whether you want to fully geek out on the data side of things or just get a clearer picture, we hope that this session is useful. So feel free to drop any questions in the chat as they come up, and we'll also share the recording for today's session on our webinar series page as well. To start, wanted to talk a little bit more about LEAD, or Labor and Economic Analysis Division. So as mentioned, this is the division where Jamie, Emma, and I are housed within. So we are essentially the labor market shop for the state of North Carolina, covering several key functions. So we have a team focused on labor market production, collecting information about what's happening within the labor market, like unemployment rates, employment information, industry, occupation data, wages. We also have a data analysis and research team that helps handle big data analysis, as well as looking at program evaluations and program outcomes. And we also have a economic and policy analysis research team. So looking at employment projections, other labor market information tools, publications, and economic development reports like our employer needs survey. And once that data has been collected, analyzed, we then publish it on various platforms, including data dashboards, our lead feed blog, our LMI Tuesday sessions, as well as NCcareers, which you'll get to learn more about in today's session. So to start off, we'll just give a quick overview about NCcareers for those who may be new to the platform, just so that we're on the same page, and then we'll dive in a little deeper on the data. So this is NCcareers. If you type in nccareers.org, it'll take you directly to this page, and we're just going to briefly walk through the key resources that are on the tool. So first, what is NCcareers? NCcareers is a state-owned resource that's completely free. Our team at LEAD manages the platform because the labor market information is essentially the backbone of the site. We have multiple governing partners that you can see on the right-hand side here, from NC Works, Department of Public Instruction, Community College System, Health and Human Services, so all within the education and workforce space. Our goal is to make high quality career exploration freely available and accessible to all. So whether middle schoolers coming to the platform wanting to learn more about what careers are out there, or a job seeker is trying to understand their next move, NCcareers is designed to meet people wherever they're on their career journey and also be portable through education and into the workforce. We're also nationally recognized and award-winning. So the site has been becoming sort of a blueprint for states across the US as they develop their own career exploration platform. Jamie and I actually attended a national conference last week, and there was a lot of excitement on what's happening here in North Carolina. So really proud to be a part of all that. And in terms of growth, just in the past year, we've had over 1 million users access the platform and over 70,000 career development plans created on the site. So the site has been around for almost 6 years now, and that growth has continued to accelerate in large part because of feedback that we receive from folks like you all. So thank you so much for helping us continue to make NC Careers fit everyone's needs. All right, so these are the key resources that we'll briefly walk through on NC Careers. So you'll notice that the platform is designed to meet wherever anyone is at on their career exploration journey. So whether they're just exploring their interest, wanting to learn more information about occupations, or see what job opportunities there are, everything is available all in one place. So the first section, the Find My Interest page, this is a great starting point for anyone who is sort of in a self-discovery phase, wanting to understand what occupations may align with their skills, values, personalities, or interests. And this is a good way to also narrow down some occupations and learn more about them. Next is the Explore Occupations page, where you can browse over 800 occupations on NC Careers. It's a pretty big number, so one of the ways that we can narrow that down is through one of the assessments from the previous slide, or there's filters directly on this page as well, where you can narrow it down by a particular salary level, education, a star rating, career cluster, and there's also a search bar as well if you already know what occupation you may want to learn more about. But once a user finds an occupation that they might be interested in and want to learn more about, when they click on it, it'll take them to the second screenshot on the right to the occupation profile page. So these profiles cover all things that the occupation entails, from what are the typical duties to the salary to the work environment. So you don't need to bounce around to different sites to be able to access this information. So this is really where a lot of that data on NC Careers is housed, and we'll get more into that on where each of the data sources are coming from, specifically on this page as well. We also have our Career Journey Builder, which lets users map out a career pathway by 3 different ways. You can start with your education. So what can you do with your current degree? So whether you have a degree in graphic design or business or project management, what are occupations that may align with that education? Second is by current occupation. So what would be a good next step for your career journey or career path? And then finally, goal career. So if you know ultimately you want to be analyst or nurse practitioner, what are the stepping stone occupations you need to consider taking in order to get to your goal career? So again, really valuable tool in terms of visualizing and mapping out a career path and thinking about career progression. We also have an education and training page. This connects occupation information to institutions across North Carolina. So if someone is interested in a specific occupation, they can see what education they need and what institutions across North Carolina offer that program of interest. So this is based on North Carolina's public universities, independent colleges, and community college system. And then finally, every good career exploration journey ends with finding a job. So on NC Careers, we don't post live job postings, but we do link out to NC Works and Indeed.com job boards. So if you'd like to see what occupations are being hired in your area, and if you'd like to see the postings on NC Works, you'll be able to add that into this page and then be able to see the live postings that are on the site. Um, and then finally, all the features that we just covered are free and you're able to use without having to create an account. But if you'd like to save any information, like your assessments or favorite any occupations or programs that you might be interested in, we do recommend creating an account. And on NC Careers, we have 3 sign-in options for CFNC. So anyone can create a CFNC account and it lasts indefinitely. Second is NC EdCloud. So students who are in the K through 12 public education system that have NC Ed Cloud credentials can use those same credentials to access NC Careers. And then finally, NC Works. So adult job seekers with NC Works accounts can use their credentials to log into NC Careers. So a lot of quick information about the key tools on the platform. Again, all that we covered for the self-assessments, occupation information, education and training, and job postings are all free to use and access. But if you would like to save information and come back to it, we definitely suggest creating an account. All right, so now we'll talk more about the content for today's webinar. So diving into where exactly does all this data on NC Careers come from, how it's organized, and why this matters. So first, just to give a quick overview of the data on NC Careers, there are a couple things worth understanding about the data. So first is where exactly is this data coming from? What are the different sources? So we pull data from organizations like ONET, BLS, our team at LEAD, as well as higher education databases specifically for our education and training page. How often does the data get updated on NC Careers? So each of these different data points are updated on various schedules. So the data on NCcareers is updated as we receive the updated data, but typically we try to have one yearly update where we update all the data on NCcareers. And finally, how this data is broken down. Is it national? Is it statewide? Is it regional? So we'll talk a little bit more about what data on NC Careers is broken down into these categories. But just a quick teaser before we get into it is information like job duties, descriptions, skills are all national level data, and then information about wages, occupational growth, job openings, we'll be able to find state level as well as regional information. So in the next couple slides, we're going to cover these three main areas. Where is this data coming from and how can it be broken down? But before we dive into that, I want to talk a little bit about the last point about regional data. So why is it important for us to think about geography when we are learning about career information? So it's important for us to understand what's happening in my area because what might be the wages and job growth in Raleigh-Durham can look different from maybe Charlotte or Asheville or the coast because economies are regional. So they're vary depending on wage, demand, and growth, and can vary depending on where you're located. So if someone maybe is going through a career transition or students want to know what does the growth look like for a particular occupation that they're interested in their area, we can get a real sense of what's happening in our local labor markets and use that to make more informed decisions. So here is how we've broken down the regions on NC Careers. And the reason why we use regions instead of county level data is because not everyone lives and works in their county. So our team, for example, we're based in Wake County, but we have colleagues coming in from Durham or Chapel Hill and other surrounding areas. So these regions are drawn based on commuting patterns data from BLS, so they reflect how individuals may live and work within their regions. So this is how it's essentially broken down in NC Careers. So if you would like to see state level data on wages or demand, you can do that, but also be able to go down into the granular of what's happening within my particular region. All right, so getting a little bit into the specifics about the data sources. So at the top of the list, we have data from our team at LEAD. So this is where you'll find North Carolina specific employment figures, wage data, star jobs rating, and we'll get a little bit more into that in just a moment. We also take data from the BLS Occupational Outlook Handbook. So all our occupation descriptions, tasks, and duties come from BLS. We also include occupation videos from Career One Stop. From ONET, we are able to gather information about common job titles, skills, similar occupations. And then finally, for our education and training page, so information about North Carolina institution degrees and program offerings are based on IPEDS, which is a national post-secondary data platform. So again, these are a lot of different sources that you may or may not already be aware of or using. So one of the key values with NCcareers is that you don't need to search separately for all this information. You can find it directly on NCcareers. So instead of having to go to Career One Stop to find videos or going to BLS to find information about occupations, this data is all housed in one place on NCcareers. So next, we'll talk more about where exactly can you find this information on NCcareers. So going back to the occupation profile page, we'll talk specifically about where this data is coming from. So starting off with the national data that we have on NCcareers, occupation information and what the job typically entails, like the typical tasks and duties, are taken from the BLS Occupation Handbook. Information about what are the common job titles, similar occupations, as well as skills are also taken from ONET. And for those who may not be familiar with ONET, ONET is a program that's the nation's primary source for occupation information and data. And it's also housed within our North Carolina Department of Commerce, which is pretty cool. So if you're interested in seeing more of the raw data, definitely check out ONET, but we grab information about the typical job titles, similar occupations, and skills from ONET. And also workplace setting. So what does the work environment look like? This is based on both ONET and BLS data. Education and training. So what is the typical education requirement as well as associated programs that employers typically look for is taken from BLS. But as mentioned earlier, specific data about North Carolina institutions is taken from IPEDS, but this information on the education and training block is from BLS. And now transitioning more into what are our state level and regional level data. So the wage growth rate as well as job openings is from our team at LEAD. Our projections team analyzes this data and we're able to gather both statewide and regional information. And then finally, star rating. So you may be familiar, but we'll talk a little bit more about what star jobs and star ratings are. But most of our occupations are rated 1 to 5 stars. Generally lets us know whether or not this would be a good future career prospect. But this is also taken from LEAD projections. So that essentially covers a lot of the data that you can find on the occupation profile page and where it comes from. Want to just step back and talk a little bit about STAR jobs methodology, why that's valuable, and how you can use this source when talking with students or clients and thinking about what would be a good occupation to consider in the future. So, STAR Jobs is a rating system that looks at the most promising career prospects across North Carolina as well as the 16 regions. So, these ratings are based on wage level, which is the most weighted, as well as projected growth and projected openings. Education and training also now plays a factor into the STAR Jobs methodology, and our STAR ratings that are currently on NCcareers are from the 2024 to 2034 projections. So breaking down a little bit about what each star rating means. So first, if you find an occupation that doesn't have a star rating, that just means we didn't have enough information to give it a star rating. So doesn't necessarily mean that it's not well-paying, high-growth occupation, just means there wasn't enough data to give it a star rating. One star is defined as limited career potential. So these occupations are typically below the median wage with little to no formal education. So examples of these occupations could be cashiers, fast food workers, parking lot attendants, dishwashers, typically those occupations that don't require much education or training. Two stars are defined as foundational careers or building block careers. These are also below the median wage, but do require some education or skill in order to pursue the occupation. So this could be teaching assistants or home health aides or retail salesperson. Three-star jobs are defined as solid career. So these occupations are typically near or above the median wage with mixed growth opportunities. So these could be occupations like maintenance workers, construction laborers, medical secretaries that all fall within the three-star occupation. Four stars are defined as strong career occupations. These occupations are typically above the median wage with stable or positive growth. So these occupations could be clinical lab technicians, electricians, computer specialists, typically fall within the four-star occupations. And then five-star are defined as excellent careers. So these occupations are the highest earning occupations within the region that have stable or growing demand as well. So these could be occupations like registered nurses, software developers, civil engineers, occupations like that. So typically you want to plan for occupations that are three stars or more, and those occupations usually have higher career prospects and future career prospects. So when looking at occupations that have three or more stars, generally indicates that this occupation would be a good career prospect. But before we turn it to brochures, I'll just turn it over to Jamie to kind of summarize all things star jobs because it's definitely a lot of information to throw out about each of these stars. So I'm just going to turn it over to Jamie to talk a little bit more about that.
Sure, absolutely. So thank you, Anshul. And again, I think you did a really nice summarizing, kind of giving the details, and hopefully everybody kind of understands. I think really one of the best ways to think about this is think about this in terms of and again Anshul showed the five inputs essentially: education, training, plus wages, which is weighted the most, then growth as well as opportunities from there. So if you think about it, education really kind of runs through all of them. If you're looking at the five-star jobs, you are going to find high school educated type or BLS minimum high school education occupations within that. But the ones that you're going to find are going to be ones that typically require more training. So manager positions that don't typically require a degree from there, maybe just a high school diploma. So maybe fast food manager or food service managers or construction managers, other occupations that may have a lower education, but they require significantly more training. So really think about it as a way to kind of grow a career and prep from there. And as Anshul said, really, if you're thinking about working with students, working with job seekers, what's the best way to think about star jobs in terms of helping them understand? 3, 4, and 5-star jobs are typically those occupations that you want to plan for to access training and from there. So I think that's really kind of a key way to think about it from there. So I appreciate that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Wrapping up all things star jobs, we do have star jobs brochures that Jamie popped into the chat box. So if you'd like to see what are the 3 to 5-star occupations in your region, this is a great resource to check out. And it's also broken down by education level. So if you'd like to see what are the 3 to 5-star jobs all the way from high school to advanced degree, you'll be able to see that broken down into star jobs brochures. And we typically update these every year. All right, and then the final tool that we'll talk about some of the data behind is our Career Journey Builder. So as mentioned, there's 3 different ways we can access the tool, either through our current education, sorry, education, current occupation, as well as goal career. So by current occupation, way that the tool looks at the data behind the scenes is that it shows us what are the similar skills and duties to our current occupation, but in terms of next steps, what are the similar skills but also typically pay the same or more. For a goal career, again, that works more backwards and looking at stepping stone occupations. So these occupations that will identify will typically be overlapping skills, but will likely pay less so that you're eventually hitting your target goal career. And then finally, by education. So this looks at linked zip codes to the SOC codes and looking at what education aligns with these occupations. So Jamie, I'll turn it back to you to talk a little bit more about the methodology behind Career Journey Builder.
Sure. Thank you. So I feel like, and I know that some people have used it, I feel like Career Journey Builder is a tool that's way underutilized within NC Careers. And I think some of that is just not quite understanding exactly the goal and the way that it works. So Anshul did a great job of giving a quick overview of it. But really, the goal of this is helping you understand, as she explained, based on an occupation, how do you either get to there or how do you grow from that? And the way that we're doing it right now, and we're actually in the middle of reworking this tool a little bit and continuing to improve the data. Again, one of the things that for many of you that I see lots of friendly names and faces in the attendee audience here, those of you that have been with us for 6-7 years since we've been developing and building NC Careers, is one of the things that you'll continually see is the data gets a little bit better every time. This is one of these tools that I'm excited to see it continue to grow as we learn more about the relationships between occupations. So basically what we're doing is we're using ONET related occupations, which matches skills basically. So if occupations have overmatching skills, excuse me, from there, then we look at the wage. And if the occupation typically pays more but requires similar skills, then that is considered a next step kind of tool. And then, of course, for the first step, we obviously work backwards. So if somebody is interested in an occupation and maybe how to get to that particular occupation, what are some occupations that require similar skills? Obviously, experience and other things are going to play a factor in this as well. But this is the way that we're tying this data together right now. So it's really kind of key to help people understand, again, where can I grow or how can I advance my career within that. And that's really by current occupation, by goal career, also referred to as next step and first step. The by education tool is also really critical. The previously it was known as the what can I do with my education tool. So again, so by matching SIPs, which is classification of instructional programs, to SOCs, which is occupations, jobs, from there, we understand what educational programs help prepare or give you the skills to be qualified for certain occupations. And the value of this is obviously somebody may ask, and again, I'll just say an English degree, for instance. I think if people, somebody comes out with an English degree, they know they're pretty well skilled to be a writer or maybe an editor or something along those lines. But what are other occupations out there that a English degree could help give you the skills to? So using that by education could be really valuable to help you understand not just how to grow a career, but what are some other options? Because again, 823 different occupations within NC Careers, the goal really is to help people broaden their understanding of potential occupations. From there, not just learn about what they already know. We want them to broaden and learn about what they don't know from there.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Jamie. Great. And then to wrap this up, what can we gather from all this data? So why is this valuable and what can we learn more about as we're career planning and exploring different options? So one, through this data, we get the full picture on occupations, what is the typical wage, and what does demand look like, and also understand what's happening in my area in terms of wage, job outlook, job growth. We can also learn more about what I need in order to pursue this occupation or career. So information about the education and training that's needed, programs within North Carolina, and also building a career map and visual roadmap that Jamie was just talking about earlier in helping us understand where we may want to go and what this occupation can lead for a career. And as always, you're able to walk away with a plan and a free platform that you can return to at any time. So again, all this data is really valuable, whether you're a student wanting to just learn more about careers and occupations, or if you're a job seeker looking to make a career transition, this data is very valuable in thinking about where you may want to go from where you are. And then before we wrap up and transition to more Q&A, just want to highlight some additional resources if you're interested in diving deeper into the data or what's happening within the state of North Carolina's labor market. Our team at LEAD hosts LMI Tuesday sessions twice a month on Tuesdays. So here you'll be able to learn more in-depth information about what's happening within the state's labor market and North Carolina's economy. So our next session next Tuesday on June 23rd will be hosted by our economists, and that is more focused on work-based learning programs across the state. Our first one in July will be specifically on the BLS's occupational employment wage statistics program. So if you're interested in learning more specifics about the new wage data, and Jamie has popped the link into the chat if you'd like to keep up to date on LMI Tuesdays. No registration required for those sessions. And then finally, our NCcareers webinars. We won't be having a session next month, but we will be starting things back up in August. But if you'd like to take a peek at some of our past session recordings, definitely check out our webinar series page. We have a Getting to Know NCcareers deep dive on how students and job seekers can use the platform, and we'll also be posting future recordings on there as well. So again, definitely check this out as well and be on the lookout for future details. And finally, please feel free to connect with us on social media, email, newsletter, if you'd like to stay up to date on all things NCcareers, or if you're interested also in seeing more of that raw data that we talked about, whether that's our jobs information, employment outlook information, industry information, definitely check out our LEAD analytics page where we post a lot of that data. And this is also another free resource that can be accessed at any time. All right, so I know that was a lot of information thrown out about the data behind NCcareers. So if anyone has any questions about the data or anything else NCcareers related, we're more than happy to spend our last 5 or so minutes answering any of your questions. And also definitely check out any of the links that Jamie has posted in the chat as well.
The goal of this session really was, again, to help you. I think if we understand the nuts and bolts behind the information that's out there, that's really our goal within LEAD, is to share this data. Obviously, NCcareers is a very user-friendly tool that kind of accesses this information. We want you to understand what it is, what the data point is. We want you to understand kind of what it means. And then obviously, if you understand what it is, how to access it, then you can also kind of understand how to use it. So again, I think this is a really valuable, and appreciate Anshul taking up this session to continue to share that. And we're always around to help you make sure you understand not just how to access the data, but really what it means, because really using the data to drive decisions is really one of the goals of LEAD, and to put this information out there. So again, really appreciate everybody for joining us today. And we're always around to help answer questions as well.